Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back, Matthew, Watty's channel. As always, thank you so much for joining me. Today, we are actually looking at some more new collections that I just acquired. Now, I do have the complete collection, which is awesome. And here's the thing: they're not wrestling related, so it's going to give us a little bit different feel today in this particular video. As you guys know, I am a major horror fan, and I love anything horror related. And when I started collecting action figures a couple years ago, obviously my main focus was wrestling. I don't know, maybe it was just the nostalgia, seeing other people and how much enthusiasm they had for their collections. It got me into really enjoying collecting, and you know what? You've seen how much this room has grown. And it also got me into collecting other things, like horror figures and whatnot, because, you know what? That's what I grew up with. That's what I've always enjoyed. So, kind of like thinking back about, like, Tales from the Crypt Keeper action figures as an example. For those who don't know, Tales from the Crypt Keeper was a cartoon in the 90s. I didn't actually watch that show until probably 2020, 2021. And I haven't seen every episode. I just kind of came across it on YouTube one day. And the very first episode featured all of your monsters from the 1920s and 1930s. Your Dracula, Mummy, Werewolf, etc. So, because they can't, really copyright those same monsters, your universal monsters, they had to create their own concept of gargoyles and mummies and Frankensteins, zombies, etc. Right? So, this right here is actually a bootleg version of Universal Monsters. And they're made by Sungold. And you've seen all of the Sungold bootleg wrestling action figures that I have. Sungold, they might be a bootleg company, but man, they've got some of the most amazing action figures I've ever seen. And I don't know if I could say that I would enjoy these as a kid, per se. But as an adult and kind of like really becoming enthusiastic about this stuff, they're amazing. There's one piece in particularly that, because I wanted that particular figure, that's what got me into wanting all the others. And you know me, I can't have one item without having the complete collection. So I think this is going to be a fun video to kind of show off some new items. Something outside of the realm of wrestling, which is pretty amazing. So, this line is simply called Monster, and it's going to feature, again, manufacturer Sungold. When they were made, I don't know. It doesn't exactly give a date or anything on here, which, is nothing new. They never give dates, manufacturer dates or anything like that. So, and the only way I knew that this was Sungold is because it was in the description of the seller who I bought these off of. But I love the graphics, and the design of the figures are absolutely amazing. I've actually tried to purchase these loose as well, because I do want a loose display for them, but one or two figures together, even beat up, they're like selling for like $80 plus, so I'm like, that's insane. The first one we are going to look at from the Monster collection is the Mummy. And this is an absolutely phenomenal action figure. Just the concept, I mean, that looks just like, or better than a lot of your Universal, monsters of the 20s and 30s. Incredible. And the great thing is, the card back, 6 easy figures to pick up. Absolutely amazing pieces. So I love the card backing. And again, the movable joints of the figures, that looks incredible. And it's kind of funny because even these figures have their own variants. Now, I haven't seen any variants as far as like different figures. Like maybe you have a white mummy and maybe you have a mummy, wrapped in gray or something. No, I haven't seen those type of variants. But I've seen variants where like the card might say vampire and inside the package is a werewolf. You'll have card backs that are different. So these 6 card backs are all this color scheme, but I've seen I've seen different card backings with the same figures though. So Will I try to acquire those variation card backs? Most likely, but as of right now, having this complete 6, I'm golden with that. So, Mummy is at number 1. Probably my least favorite figure among this lot. And I just think this is simply the Hunchback. Maybe because he's a less notable character. And he's a smaller character too. So that kind of really, hurts his value in my eyes. But he is a member of this collection. And best believe he is going to get picked up. I'm just kind of looking at him. Like when you're exposed to like radiation and your arms and your hands, a face, and everything starts bubbling up, really gross and whatnot. That is exactly what it looks like is on his chest and hands. So if you actually look at the detail of the figure, that is pretty incredible. And I don't think I'm giving this figure enough credit because it's pretty sensational. Trying to see if like the card backs, the graphics on here are any different, and they're not. They're about the same. Hunchback of Notre Dame, I don't know. I'm just gonna call him the Hunchback. But that's pretty awesome. Coming at number 3, and this was the whole purpose of this collection. I just kind of came across this figure by chance on eBay, and it was selling for such a high price. I think it was like $80 at the time that I saw it, $90, $100, I don't know, somewhere in that neighborhood. And for a bootleg figure, I'm like, that I've never heard of, why am I bidding on this? Well, I bid on it because you've got your bootleg Freddy Krueger. I think any one of us born in the 80s are Freddy Krueger obsessed. You guys already know I'm pretty much obsessed with all your major slasher films. Hellraiser, Chucky, Freddy Krueger, Michael Myers, Jason. You know what? All of those are phenomenal. I don't know, Pinhead, to me, I don't think Hellraiser is as important as it had been. Like, after the first 3 movies, it just got really stupid, where, like, everyone was, like, living in their own hellish reality or whatnot. It wasn't actually, the Cenobites coming to Earth and basically dragging the person back to hell type of deal. So I think 4 was in space. So 5 onward, 5 to, like, 8, had the same basic concept, and it got really lame. They did come out with the Hellraiser female version about a year or 2 ago, and probably last year, I don't know, either late 2022, early 2023 maybe. I think I made it through about an hour and a half of that movie. It was like a 2-hour movie. I never finished it, and I don't know if I'm going to go back and watch it at any point. It just wasn't that interesting. But man, Freddy freaking Krueger, man, he kind of has like that Where's Waldo shirt, which is awesome. But the Knife Fingers, and dang, what I didn't do was write down the names of the characters, because when you look at the name on the listing on eBay, they call him Joe Hand Knives or something like that. I'm sure if I look it up, if anyone looks it up on Google or something, they could probably find the name. But obviously, you can't call him Freddy Krueger because it's not licensed. It's a copycat bootleg figure. But it was Freddy Krueger, and that's all that I needed to go after this one. And then it led me to have to pick up all the others. So glad I got this one. Truly amazing. Well, something that... Sorry, I had to cough and didn't want to cough on camera. Something that I don't think a lot of people spend enough time making is good, solid werewolf movies. Maybe because with the CGI and the makeup and the latex and all that stuff that goes into creating a werewolf and creating a transformation werewolf scene is probably too isn't very cost effective. I can only imagine, because you get like a million vampire movies, but you get very few werewolf movies. And when you do get a werewolf movie, how often are they like exceptional? You know, Dog Soldiers to me was probably like the greatest werewolf movie ever, and it's really tough to decide. Dog Soldiers, Howling, American Werewolf in London. Technically, any one of those three movies can be number one. Anyone can be number two. Anyone can be number three. It really depends on who you ask, but I think those were my three, in order. And I always said that, American Werewolf in London had the best werewolf transformation scene ever. And then movies like, what was it? Underworld. Ugh. Like, I had the image of the poster and everything in my head, but I couldn't remember the name. Like, the Underworld has some amazing werewolves, but it's not really a werewolf movie, It's mostly centered around the vampire lead character, right? So, but like standalone individual werewolf movies, there's not too many out there, and that sucks. Some of my favorite movies, and this werewolf figure is absolutely fantastic. Again, a very solid 1930s Wolfman, keeping kind of with the Universal style of, Frankenstein and the Mummy and the Wolfman and Dracula, etc. So, obviously, solid character. You know what? Another very solid werewolf that nobody really ever talks about, from the Monster Squad. One of the greatest movies of the 1980s. Definitely a top 5 all-time great among 1980s movies for me as a kid, and he had a pretty awesome transformation scene himself. But this awesome figure, glad to have this. I think if anything, Wolfman and Dracula probably would have been. I would have picked that up with the Freddy Krueger regardless, because they're pretty special. And after we get into the werewolf, we dive into Frankenstein. So, nothing really super flashy about this Frankenstein. A very generic look to him. No bolts coming out of his head or anything crazy. The only thing you really notice is a little scar right over his right eyebrow. And, this obviously meshes well with the photograph, which is, it's okay. It's not a bad figure, I would have liked him to look more zombie-ish, I guess, and not more like an alien, because that's what the kind of feel it gives me. Still, a quality action figure, especially for a bootleg line. I think this is a fantastic pickup for. You don't have to be a toy collector. You don't have to be. I think any toy collector would appreciate this line. I think any horror fan would definitely appreciate this line. If you're a fan of 1930s Universal monsters, yeah, these would be an incredible piece. I still recommend the Tales from the Crypt Keeper toy line. Again, with the werewolf and Dracula, mummy, zombies. So this line had the Hunchback, where that line had gargoyles, for example. So I think any of those fans would appreciate either one of these lines. The last one we're looking at is the Vampire. Now, none of these cards actually give you a name, but like I said earlier in this video, I think it was on a black card. It said Vampire, and then inside the package was the werewolf character, the Wolfman. So, not too much like Dracula. Obviously, you're missing the cape, so that kind of hurts it. And, kind of like this little Joker costume that he's got on. I think they could have done it better, but I really am not going to shame this line or its vampire character. I still think it looks great. At least you got the fangs in there and everything. Green hair, purple pants. I mean, who's not thinking DC Joker at this point, right? And it kind of has like one of those little bow ties that kind of, you think it kind of spins around, little joke bow ties, maybe squirts water or something. So yeah, I look at this, I'm like, if this was on a DC card, like if they were like creating like fake Batmans or bootleg Batman and bootleg Harley Quinn and all that, you could just alter this figure just a very small amount and create yourself a good bootleg Joker figure. And one last time looking at the back of the card. Now, I didn't research these, so I don't know when they came out, but experience tells me when I've tried to research like the bootleg wrestling action figures I have, I couldn't find any information about them outside of, you know, made in China type of deal. But as far as release date or even, you know, the make of the company, again, I only know they're Sungold based on the title of the listings. And you know what? I lied. They actually do tell you the manufacturer. SG Sungold. Okay, that's pretty awesome. So that helps a little bit. I still would have liked if they actually gave you a release year or something, but that's fine. I know this is a wrestling channel for the most part, but what do I always say, guys? When I created my YouTube channel, it was never supposed to be a collection channel. It was never supposed to be a collection channel or a wrestling channel. It was supposed to be a catch-all. Talk about every and anything. And sticking with the collection or collection channel that I'm known for, it's nice to add something outside of wrestling once in a while. So I'm super glad to be able to add this type of video to the list of videos. I'm gonna make one more video today. Trying to think. You know what? Last week or the week before, we did the Just Toys WWE Bendums, and at some point in the future, I'm gonna have to redo those videos. It was just kind of, that video was just kind of show off the new figures I got in, but I want to break it down into series. Thing is, each series, until you get to like, you know, 9, 10, 11 type of deal, each series only has like 4 or 5 figures, so most of them 4 figures. So those are going to be like 10-minute videos. Now I can make them individually and post them every day, but I'm still in the process of picking up a lot of loose figures. That way I have loose figures to go with the carded. But obviously the carded are my main concern. I actually took those figures upstairs to one of my spare bedrooms and actually put them on the wall and laid them out and left a little space in between so that I could see exactly which figure from which series is missing. And, you know, like I said, I kind of wallpapered the wall with those carded Bendums, and it looked really good. My wife came upstairs, saw that, screamed at me a whole lot, and basically tore them all down, and I was ticked off. That took me a lot of time, a lot of effort to hang those up and get the spacing right on everything, and I was going to start making some videos upstairs and have that as like my background and whatnot. These figures, I was going to hang these on the wall. They was going to look really good, but nah, she doesn't want me destroying anything other than the basement. Like, this isn't destroying. Are you kidding me? This looks great. But the WCW Just Toys will be my next video, and we're looking forward to that. I don't have all the figures, but again, I'm very, very close to complete. So I would say better than 90%. So kind of gives you guys a different take of different collections that are out there. Alright guys, that will be it for this video. As always, thank you for your support and watching my videos, your comments, your subscriptions. It does mean the world. And look forward to talking to you in the comments and seeing you in the next video. Goodbye everybody.